Well, hey, huge warm welcome to everyone. 7th of April. It's great to be online with you all, and great to see so many of you looking well. Already said hi to Marina up in Darwin, Northern Territory, and I know for a lot of the Queenslanders and those guys in the Northern Territory and whatnot. It's an hour later. I did actually see someone did join the Zoom at 5:15 my time. So I think a bit of a juggle there. I got the notification. So apologies to whoever that was. But great to see everyone. And if you are new or visiting, huge welcome. You're welcome anytime. The purpose of this Business Connect is to encourage, inspire, and equip business leaders, Christian business leaders, and hopefully equip us to serve God in extraordinary ways through our work and through our careers. So we do it by gathering consistently. We come together every Thursday morning as a constant, and we really believe in that consistency. We gather together to share stories, to encourage one another, and to learn from each other's expertise. So we're very blessed with a broad range of people that have a whole variety of experience, and it's really cool. So what we have been doing every Thursday leading into Lent is we've been receiving communion together. And that, as we conclude, we'll do the same. So if you do have the chance to just grab something to participate in that, that would be fantastic. So we're going to have Stu Hawkins that's going to lead us in communion. You can see Stu and Henry together there. So love you guys and look forward to you guys leading us soon. But it's been really nice to see everyone. Nice to see Craig Brown. We caught up this week, and he's expecting baby number 4, which is really exciting. So welcome, looking through here. Welcome back, James Russell. I know you joined last week from Mary's, and great to see you again. And thanks for jumping on. And it looks like you're out and about doing your best to stay dry. And hi to Andrew Beveridge. Great to see you as always. See Mark Rooney up there in Newcastle. So hi, Mark. And obviously Matt Lowe up on the Sunshine Coast. Definitely worst places in the world to be joining from. Whole heap of friends as per usual, and really looking forward to this morning. So this morning we are going to be having a conversation with someone who I've known for a while now, actually, a little while. Someone who is part of our Hills campus, and look, there are a couple of guys I noticed missing in church at the Hills campus on the weekend. And John Smallwood, quickly, as we introduce you to the group, do you want to tell us what was going on there? It's looking about, and I thought there were a couple of some silver-haired gentlemen that usually would be in the Hills service on a Sunday morning, not there. So what was going on, mate?
Yeah, we a few of us took off down to the snowy mountains for the weekend on motorbikes, and one car, should I add. So Andrew Denton and a few of us headed off down to the Snowies from church, and we picked the best weekend to be there. I think it was the only place in Australia that had rain on Sunday. So it poured down on Sunday, which was obviously punishing us because we weren't in church. Anyway, it was the only place, but we had an amazing time. Went down on Saturday morning and got back late on Monday, and we were very, how to describe it, Andrew? We were very tame and well behaved.
Yeah, I'd expect nothing less from you guys. I actually ran into Hayden Nelson, who Hayden shared on this platform, and is often part of this group as well. And ran into Hayden. He was grabbing a coffee, and he said, "Oh, I'm sore, and I was wet and cold." And he said, "Look, 4 of us were riding bikes, and one guy drove his Mustang, and it sounded like that one guy was the only smart guy in the group." I won't name and shame, but I'm sure it was nice stretching the Mustang's legs, Andrew. Anyway, John, you're going to be inputting to us this morning, and I am going to ask you a couple of questions to get to know you, and then give you the chance to share and just speak into us a little bit. But mate, look, as we said, hi there, a little bit of an accent I picked up. Do you want to tell us a little bit about where you originally are from, where you were brought up, and maybe give us a bit of context on why you might sound a bit funny?
Yes, I was actually born just outside London. So originally my birth certificate would say I was English, but my parents, my dad was a Yorkshireman, English. My mum was Irish. And when I was 6 years old, we moved back to Ireland. We moved to Dublin, and back in that was so I was born in 1959. So if you work that out, I'm 63. But back in the early 60s, it wasn't a good idea to have an English accent in Ireland and in Dublin and in school. So I think within about 6 weeks, I'd lost my Irish or my English accent and developed my Dublin accent. So I was born, as I said, in England, brought up in Dublin, one of 7 kids. So 5 brothers, 1 sister. I think Mary said last week she was brought up in a Catholic family. I was brought up as a Catholic as well. Good Catholic family. It was pretty average, actually. 7 kids was pretty average. You know, a lot of people around us had 13. Somebody around not far from us, I think, that had the Guinness Book of Records or something, that 22 kids or something like that. But I was pretty average. My dad, like I said, was English. He was brought up as English Anglican. My mum was Irish Catholic. So we had a real mixture, but we were brought up as Catholics. And came to cut a long story short, I suppose, came to Australia then back in 1997, so some 25 years ago. And I, today, these days, I'm a coach. So that's my full-time gig. I'm a coach, but I definitely didn't start out as a coach. I worked in many different areas. I was brought up as, one thing, I was brought up in a very much a working class family. Both my parents worked full time. They had to, I think, to feed 7 kids. I think you had no choice but to do that. And, I left school at the earliest opportunity. I was actually encouraged, should I say, to leave school. The school left me before I left the school. So I didn't actually finish officially my high school final year. And that was kind of typical, for the where I lived. And most kids had already left school around the age of 13 or 14 and gone into trades. My mum had aspirations that I would go on and go to university. That never happened, never got there. I went to the University of the Street pretty early. So that was my early journey, Dan.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. And should mention your incredible wife, Louise, is also on here. Louise, just quickly say hi just so people can see who John is married to.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, great to see you. Now, John, you guys have an incredible testimony of coming to faith. Do you want to just be worthwhile? Well, I think it'd be awesome and cool for people to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. I don't think it's the typical one, a typical testimony, if there is such a thing as a typical testimony. We met in 97 when I first came to Australia, and we were married. We were married to other people. We were both married at the time. We were so far from being Christians. I would say I really was one of those guys who thought that if I walked into a church, then the roof was going to fall in, or I just thought that would be the way it would be. And but anyway, we met, we married. We were both in sales, but I was actually I was the CEO of the business that Louise came in as a salesperson to. And we got married quite early. In actual fact, our eldest daughter was at our wedding, so that will explain a little bit. And I'll actually share this as well, although it's probably just a side thing. We got married at the time. Louise wore a black wedding dress. That would just give you another example of where we were. I can see she's covering our face, but yeah. And anyway, we traveled. We had all the trappings of success. We lived a kind of high lifestyle. We partied hard. And we moved up to Singapore just after the Olympics in 2000. And, but, things caught up with us pretty quickly. So, and Louise, I'm going to share this. I've got a permission to share this. We had a lot of issues with alcohol. And Louise was really challenged with alcoholism. And then 2004, 2005, we actually made the decision to come back to Australia because actually we made the decision to come back to Australia to actually save our family because we had two very young kids at the time. So we came back to Australia. This is where we had some support. And the quick story about where we were saved and how we were saved was we used to drop our kids off, or Louise used to drop our kids off on a Friday night to a local kids club in a local, tiny little local church in Newport in the Northern Beaches. And, you know, there's two separate stories here and they run in parallel, but Louise used to drop the kids off there and I would occasionally go down and pick them up because quite often Friday night would be the time when, you know, if you were going to drink, that was probably the one day of the week when you're definitely going to do that. But I'd go down and pick the kids up, and our marriage was in a really tough place. It was being torn apart, you know, and I was at that stage where I was getting advice about should I, you know, try and get guardianship of the kids and things like that. And, you know, it was really at its lowest. And I remember sitting outside this church in Newport waiting to pick up my kids, and it was raining, and I was sitting there. Still remember clearly with the windscreen wipers on. I was in a Range Rover, and I was crying, and I prayed, and I was praying. My prayer was like, God, you know, if you are there, like if you give me back my family, I'm yours. That was pretty much my prayer. And some people say you shouldn't kind of strike a bargain, but like that was it. I said, if you give me back my family, I'm yours. And I prayed. Anyway, unbeknownst to me, around the same time, Louise is having a conversation with one of the girls who was on the team at the kids club. And similar kind of story, you know, Louise was there one day and this girl asked her the question, you know, are you okay? And Louise, you know, started crying and had this conversation, told her what was going on. And the girl at the time, Jade, a beautiful lady called Jade, said, can I pray with you? And prayed with Louise. And the same thing happened. Both of us decided within days, maybe weeks of each other, that we were giving our lives over to Christ. And Louise has been sober since then, just so you know, which is 14 years, maybe 14 years and a couple of months. And we've been going to and attending to and being in church ever since then. And I've got to tell you this, it wasn't one of those journeys where it was really easy from the beginning. We resisted big time. You know, we fought it every step of the way for the first 2 or 3 years in particular. So we went to this little Anglican church. We had a tiny community that gathered around us and supported us. It was interesting for me because I'd been brought up in the Catholic as a Catholic, and you know, I was challenged with the differences and things like that, but it made sense to me, and I understood the Anglican Church, having my dad been an Anglican. And then gently, it was really interesting. I love the way God works. You know, we were gently brought on a different journey. We moved from the Northern Beaches to Galston, which some of you would know in the Hills District, but kind of pretty rural. And nobody could understand why we were brought there, but we knew that God called us to be there. And it was a healing time for us because we were in a tiny community. We were away from some of those, you know, the more party style community. And we got involved in a tiny little church, a little Pentecostal church in Galston. And we ended up serving, and serving back then was doing everything. Like serving was, we ran kids club. Louise and I ran kids club. We took a half day on a Friday. We were called kids pastors, but we didn't know the pastor bit. We were called the kids pastors. We ran kids club on a Friday. We set up church in the school hall on a Sunday morning. I ran the sound desk. Louise used to do kind of like karaoke church. You know, we used to play Hillsong music or music, and Louise would do worship. And, you know, we would deliver the message some weeks, and we'd bring in different pastors, but the church was about 20, 25 people. Anyway, again, just taking it closer to today, I think about 6-7 years ago now, we actually made the decision that we needed more meat, is the way we describe it, and we needed more for our kids. Our kids were getting to teenagers. There was nothing for the youth. So we actually made the decision to come to Hillsong as our home church. And I'll just share one last thing on this, Dan. during that time when we were in Newport, we'd heard about Hillsong. We wanted to go to Hillsong and visit Hillsong. It's like almost like a tourist thing. Let's go, check it out. It's a bit like going to the botanical gardens or something, but let's go to Hillsong. Everyone said, don't do that. You don't want to go there. They teach that prosperity gospel. You definitely don't want to do that. Anyway, we, being the rebels we said, yeah, okay. But we went to Hillsong. And I still remember we sat right up as far in the back as they would let us, on the top left-hand side as you're facing the stage. And Pastor Brian was preaching that day. I still remember the worship songs that day. And we listened. I didn't particularly like Pastor Brian. I thought, it didn't kind of click with me, but I loved the message. It was like I remember he was just like he was speaking to me. And that's the bit that was kind of irritating me. It's like, why is he saying this to me? And I was really convicted some of the things that he said. And at the end, they used to come around and literally come up into they come up in the auditorium and hand out the Bible. So they came along to hand out the Bible, and I went to grab it, and we said, hey, that's mine. And I said, no, it's mine. I put my hand up. She said, well, I put my hand up too. And I said, well, okay, there we go. So we tend to do a lot of things together. So that was really our reconfirmation, and we recommitted right there and then again, and that was a real turning point for us. Anyway, we joined Hillsong, like I said, 6 or 7 years ago now. Louise, my wife, who I love dearly, she actually works for Hillsong Church. She works for Hillsong Music. In Hillsong Music, she's a coach, full-time coach. And my daughter also, who just recently got married, works for Hillsong as well. She works for Channel. There you go.
Wow, that is so cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. And I mean, it's some really, wow, just sharing some real info there with us, I guess, just about your guys' journey up until now. And yeah, wow. If you ever come to Hills campus, you can't miss John and Louise, because they're just leading from the front. They have such youthful spirits, and they're just, they're everything that I aspire to be like as someone that just brings life and joy and atmosphere to a room. Even like, they are just the best people to be around. So those that part of our Hills campus would know that through and through. But you guys are just a delight, and yes, that's so cool to even hear that story again. It was powerful. I remember actually it was at maybe your first staff retreat, Louise, where I think the one where like you got a tattoo or something. Because it's in the Hunter Valley and people are going out to like vineyards and stuff. And Louise was, she's been sober 14 years now, but at that point, and she's like, I'm not going to go wine tasting. I'm going to go get a tattoo. So I hope you don't mind me sharing that. But I thought it was pretty awesome.
I'm still trying to remove it. It was such a bad one. So.
At least it was a little one. So.
Yeah.
Exactly. Could have been worse. It could have been like over your eyebrow or something. But anyway, so cool, John. Look, you've given us a couple of snapshots. I mean, from the University of the Streets, you mentioned, you were a CEO of a company that Louise was working sales in, and mentioned you're a coach now. Could you maybe give us a little just snapshot of your career trajectory? And also, I'd be curious to hear that moment where you really came to faith, how that changed your approach to your work and career.
Yeah. So look, I'll go to the career piece first. So I was a CEO for 21 years. And actually, the reason I came to Australia, I got headhunted by the company I'd been working with in the UK. We'd sold the business in the UK, and they headhunted me to come out and take over as a CEO of a company here, a listed company here in Australia. And I came over and look, it was one of those, how can I put it? It was the corporate life where it was very much cutthroat. Like I used to say, people used to climb over dead bodies to get whatever they needed to do. And I can see Peter Lowe smiling right there. It was that kind of thing. And we partied hard, there's no shame. Actually funny when I talk about it, there's not a shame in it, and it's not things are to be proud of, but like there were a lot of drugs involved. There was, it was just that kind of lifestyle. Anyway, when Louise and I were saved, first thing happened was, look, I became very focused on the family, and I didn't travel, and I was actually really clear I wasn't going to do that. I got involved in, we started serving in church, like right from the get-go, even in that little church in Newport. I remember sanding down the floors with a painting and putting up kitchen cabinets and all that type of stuff, doing anything, just serving, finding ways to serve. And I really realized that what I wanted, I was drawn to do, was actually, love on people. And one thing, there's a lot of coaches here. Like, I know there's a lot of coaches. I can see there's Wayne. I saw Wayne Stickle here. He's a disability specialist. He's a coach in disabilities. I know Peter Lowe is a coach. There's Rebecca Wood I saw here. She's a coach and she works in domestic violence with women. A lot of coaches here, right? There's Rebecca waving too. So, coaches, by their very nature, that they love on people. You can't not love on people if you're a coach. And that's really what we were drawn to. And I've been coaching now for a little over 10 years. And it's a big change from the corporate world, and I would say financially, it was a huge change as well, You went backwards in that space as well, Dan. Yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine. Now, could you maybe just flesh out in detail, like what specifically or who specifically do you coach?
So I'm, I coach people. So, I hear a lot about business coaches, but I've actually never met a business. So I've looked for a few, but I haven't found any. So I coach people, and I coach people around, like I coach people about their stuff, and the one common thing in business is people say, my issues are finance, or my issues are operation, or my issues are this, but really at the end of the day, everyone's dealing with people issues. And even if you're self-employed, I promise that you're dealing with people issues, you're dealing with you, right? So it's all about relationships and people. Now, I'm what we call an ontological coach. It's not as common in Australia, but it's very, very common around the world. There are thousands of us. And an ontological coach works with who we're being. So it's, we work on who you're being. And I'll give you an example around this is, if you're being honest, then you're going to behave a particular way and it's going to give you particular results. If you're being responsible, you're going to behave a particular way and it's going to give you particular results, right? And so if you're being Christ-like, let me ask this, if you're being Christ-like, you're going to behave a particular way. And in actual fact, Louise was saying to me yesterday, look, if everyone was Christ-like, we wouldn't have any work. It wouldn't be need for coaches if we were all being Christ-like. So yes, we're ontological coaches. And when I say being, because there are a lot of behavioral coaches and amazing coaches who are behavioral coaches, but being actually, who you're being actually determines how you behave. And that's the area that we work in. Yeah. Just on that, I personally primarily work with CEOs and business owners, and that's about 50%, but primarily, and then the other 50%, I actually coach coaches. I train coaches.
Yeah, that's cool. I had to look up what an ontological coach was. So yeah, I've never heard of it personally, but that's so cool, John. And look, do you want to maybe speak to some of the main topics you coach around?
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Look, there are probably three of the big, what I call the big conversations. Responsibility, assertiveness, and forgiveness are the three. And I'd say every coach here would know that, they're pretty common. They would understand that. Big one for me is forgiveness. And I say it's an interesting one. I say I do more work on forgiveness, particularly again with those CEOs and business owners, than any other topic. And when I talk about forgiveness, the challenge around with forgiveness is really, for most people, it's actually not forgiving others. And we actually find this, especially even in our community. And Louise is like I said, she's a coach in church. We're pretty good as a community of forgiving others. We're pretty shocking when it comes to forgiving ourselves. And it's like our blind spot. And I'm actually going to share, I've only chosen two passages. I'm not theologically trained. I rely on the Haydens and the Andrews and Dan Purdy Smiths of this world to support me when it comes to theology. But I'm going to read two passages. So, and the first one I'm going to read is they're both from Luke, Luke 6. And one is around, I'm going to say this, it's around resentment. It says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when you yourself fail to see the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. And the reference in that is like, it's clearly about, blaming or judging or criticizing others, but also it's about resentment. And you see, a lot of us, we actually forgive others, but we actually don't deal with the resentment that we carry ourselves, and we don't deal with the resentment that we carry towards ourselves. See, the person we have the most conversations with in any given day is ourselves. And for a lot of the time, if you could hear, if somebody else could hear the way we speak to ourselves, and I know this from my own, we actually often speak to ourselves in a way that we would be ashamed if anyone else could hear us speaking like that to someone else. So, we tend to judge, we tend to criticize ourselves, we tend to blame ourselves, we berate ourselves. So we do that a lot. So when it comes to forgiveness, what I say is our capacity to truly forgive somebody else is determined by our capacity to forgive ourselves. So, so we say we'll forgive somebody else, but we actually hold on to it, and we continually will blame ourselves for little things. So, the crazy piece in this is we know we're already forgiven. As Christians, we're already forgiven. Yet we actually, and I'm going to share this. It's like I say, it's like Louise's story. This was some time ago when Louise was really at the early stages of dealing with, she'd given up. She hadn't been drinking for a while, but she was really challenged by it. But what actually happened was she was having this conversation. She was really quite angry, and she was feeling ashamed and blaming herself about a lot of things. And I was saying to have the conversation with her, and I got quite annoyed and angry with her. And I said, look, you've already been forgiven. What is it like if I was to give you a gift and you throw it back in my face? Jesus has already forgiven you, and you're not forgiving yourself. It's the same. It's like he's given you the gift of forgiveness, yet you're throwing it back at him. What's that like? What's that about? So we are forgiven. And the thing is for us to actually really, really take that forgiveness, embrace that forgiveness, and actually, before we actually look at ourselves, and like I said, take that plank out of your own eye before we actually start to look at truly forgiving others. So, I'm conscious of time, Dan, and I'm gonna bring it to a wrap up here. But I'm gonna ask you to just check in, like, what are the things you're resentful for? What are the complaints that you have? And look at them and deal with them, but look at them from the perspective of what is it that you can forgive yourself for so that you can let go and move on. So, we have this temptation sometimes to hold on to, or we actually feel that we're not, we shouldn't let ourselves off the hook. But it's not about letting yourself off the hook. When it comes to forgiveness, it is not about forgiving and forgetting. It's about forgiving and remembering the lesson, and then to let go and move on. Not about, so you hear this forgive and forget. No, it's not about forgive and forget. It's forgive, remember the lesson, and then let go and move on. Yeah. So 3 little things I want to give you. Just actually 4. It's 4 because it's forgiveness. I've got 4 things, right? 3 things, 4, forgiveness. You'll remember 4 things. Be ruthless about resentment. Look for it in your relationships, especially with your partner. Look for it in your relationships. Check it out. Be ruthless about finding resentful. If you can smell it, deal with it. Go and check in with the person and have whatever conversation you need to have it be resolved for you. Forgive. Yeah. If you struggle to forgive somebody else, check in first. And what I mean by check in inwardly. Check in. All right. Check in first. If you're struggling to forgive someone else, then check in what is it that you're not prepared to forgive yourself for, and deal with that. And then that'll give you actually the space and the grace to actually go and forgive another person. Yeah. Fourth one, forgive fast and furiously. You know, the fast and the furious, forgive fast and furiously. Don't wait. You know, it doesn't, people say time heals. No, time just puts distance between you and whatever it is. Forgive fast and furiously. Yeah. And the last one is just remember who forgave you first. Remember who forgave you first. Yeah. So I think that's it from me, Dan. I hope that was, you know, my intention was just if I could just encourage one person. That was my intention today. So whoever you are, I do hope that you were encouraged, and thank you, Dan, for the opportunity to actually speak.
Thank you, John. I think you did a lot more than encourage one person, and yeah, at the very least, you encouraged me. So, mate, thank you. Love yourself and Louise, and just appreciate, you know, I said it before, you guys are just such a blessing to me personally and to our broader church. And I know to many people on here. So it was great. I saw Rebecca Wood, who down in Canberra, I believe, wrote, wrote so amazing thank yous. Wrote, John and Louise are such beautiful people. I think that summed up my sentiment just perfectly. So yeah, pretty great. Now, quickly, Louise, obviously been married to John. Just give us something you love about this man. I mean,
oh my gosh,
I know it's on the spot, and you got to choose one, but
he's kind.
Yep.
I'm going to be moved, actually. He's kind. Yeah. He's and generous, and sorry, he is. You know, we work with a lot of coaches, and I have the privilege of working with some of our team. But the one thing I know is John's selfless. He really is. I mean, it's funny, given he's stayed by me through all of that, he's got to have some gifting on his life. So, and, you know, I laugh about it, but he really is. He's generous, and he always sees how he can be of service. Yeah. And he's just the real deal. He's genuine. He's count onable. Yeah. I could keep going. I am his biggest fan, I have to say, and he's brilliant. He's a brilliant coach, masterful. And so he's my teacher in that area. So I'm very blessed for that too. Yeah. Nice. Great at community too. Oh gosh, I'll keep going if you want me to. I'll stop.
You guys are both great at community. And hey, if I know Louise or John, if you pop in the chat, if people want to connect with you guys, you know, feel free to. I mean, obviously, if you're up for it, you know, you are great at community and you're both connectors. So I feel comfortable enough to ask you, you know, if you want to just pop your details in the chat with how people can get in touch with you, that'd be incredible. But appreciate you both, and thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely be hearing from both of you guys again in days to come. So yeah, appreciate it. Well, hey, we're gonna receive communion together. Stu and Henry, I see you guys there. And I'd encourage you, just if you can, stick around just for a couple more minutes while we just receive communion. Even if you don't have emblems, I think this is something really powerful that we can participate in together. But hey guys, Stu and Henry run an incredible business called Red Arc. Is that still the name of your business?
There's a story. Okay. Yes, it is.
There's a bit of a joke there. Sorry. Yes, that's great, guys. How's it going? Just quickly before we get into all things spiritual, communion based, how's the year been? How's business going?
How's business going? We're experiencing extreme growth pains, and everybody said, you know, that would be really painful, and I was like, no, it'd be fantastic. Growth pains are going to be awesome. I'd love to grow, but in actual fact, they were right. So very exciting, but kind of chaos and stuff.
What's your biggest challenge right now?
Henry? No, not Henry. That's not. Sorry. just in case someone plays that back. That was. You could take that two ways. So over to you, Henry.
I would say probably team. Yeah, getting the right people, right seats, right people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And communication, clearly.
No, I could understand. Good. Well, yeah, we'll hear more about that in days to come. But hey, do you guys want to lead us in communion? Lead us in this moment, so the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Dan. I actually love that we're doing this in Lent. Henry and I have for nearly a year now been doing this, taking communion on Friday afternoon. So the end of the working week, we take communion. And if ever I'm the one praying, I pretty much pray the same thing every time. So this is, the most untheological thing you're going to hear today, just to warn you. But I noticed that the word communion and the word community are very, very similar. And I tried to look it up this morning, but there's this sense around communion that it's like, there's lots of aspects to communion. But the one I always pray about is it's just bringing us together. It's like, it's communion. We're coming into communion, into community with each other. So I just have to pray that prayer for you guys. So, you can come into community with whoever you're maybe taking it with this community, with church, with the church, and ultimately with Jesus, right? So if you've got some, bread and maybe some IKEA lingonberry cordial or something, I'm just going to pray for you guys, and then we're going to do this. We're going to take this together. So, oh wow, there's a verse. Sorry, Henry just reminded me that I did actually have a theological moment. So, 1 Corinthians 10. Since there is one bread, we believers who are many are united into one body, for we all partake of the one bread, which represents the body of Christ. So there you go. Wasn't just entirely making that up. All right. So Lord Jesus, please bring these people together, this incredible community. May they be in community, may they be in communion with each other, with this community, with the church, and ultimately with you, Jesus. Bless their week, and thank you for them. All right, so if you've got some bread, let's do this together. And you've got some wine. This is Jesus' blood. Amen. Back to you, Dan.
Amen. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Well, yeah, it's been awesome doing this, leading into Lent with everyone. And yeah, thank you, Stu and Henry, for leading us in that moment. And yeah, look, thanks everyone for being part of this morning. Good to see Josh Grunstein on, back from up north, mate. Hope you had a great time. I can see Kylie there as well. Kylie, have to catch up. I want to hear how business is going for you and everything like that. But yeah, thanks so much for everyone for being on. And Kesby, great to see you again. And yeah, stay in touch. If there's anything we can do to serve you in this season, keen to do it. I know a few of us guys at the Hills campus having lunch on Sunday. If you want to join, just let me know, just so I can figure out numbers and try. Yeah, I'll get it happening. But yeah, just reach out if you want to connect. You know, Andrew, myself, and others will be part of that. So it's going to be great. But yeah, take care. Have a great rest of your week. And thanks again, John, Louise, Stu, Henry, everyone that was involved in this morning. Be blessed, guys. We'll see you soon.
That was fantastic, John.